Welcome back to my series where I review followers' chief gear. And so here we have somebody who is originally from a state that is older than mine. And they're pretty far in their chief gear. So we're going to take a look at the infantry, because we always start there. C1 1-star legendary. This equates to T1 for those of us who see this in English. Hold on. That is not it. I should have had this pulled up so I could show y'all.
Here without a trace.
So you have legendary, no stars, 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars. Then we have T1, T1 1 star, T1 2 star, T1 3 stars, and then we go to T2, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, and then T3, 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, and then it goes to T4. So he is in T1, but because his original language is not English, you can see that's he has the C1. So I don't want people to get confused when they look at his and think that they're missing something. Okay, so he has it's T1 1 star legendary jacket and pants. So those are twins, and we like twins. And then his marksman gear is T1 1 star gold or mythic. And this is C1 1 star, also gold. And then his lancer compass is gold 1 star, and his lancer hat is gold 1 star. So his chief gear is one full set of gear above his infantry gear is one full set of gear above his marksman gear, right? So his marksman just now to C1, and his infantry is C1. So his infantry gear is several steps ahead of his marksman gear. And he could be defense, or he kind of wants to be really strong on the offensive line part of his gear. His infantry is going to have a stronger attack, and I think what we're going to see when we go to look at it is that he is also going to have focus more on his infantry charms than he has his marksman charms. And that's not wrong, but if he focused some more on his marksman charms, he probably would have increased bear scores, and it would also improve his attack, because unless you're in a state that has wells that can easily beat others, and can use infantry for the attack because they overpower everybody by so much, you're going to have to use marksmen on your attack. You're going to have to rely on their attack and their lethality in order for you to be effective. You could choose not to use lancers, but you really can't go without marksmen unless you're just significantly more powerful than everybody else in the state. And looking at this and seeing his total power is 390. There's he's probably, the odds of him being the strongest person in his state are somewhat limited. So what I would say is he should go ahead and bring up his marksmen. I would bring them up to at least T2, 2 stars. I would prefer if he brought them up to T3. Both sides. And then his Lancer, we've talked about how you have this point in time where you kind of shift a little bit away from Lancers, but most people still use them in their defense. And so what I would say is that what I would recommend is him go ahead and bring his marksman up to T3 gold, and then bring his Lancers up to T1. And then moving forward, he could go infantry, marksman, Lancer. That's what I would recommend, so that he doesn't leave the Lancers in the dust, so that he can still use them if he needs them, but he's prioritized his infantry and his marksmen. So let's zoom in so we can see those, charms. So we're going to start with the marksman, and so we see that he has 5s all the way across, and then over here he has 5s all the way across. He's very even right to left side. I like to see that. That's good. And then his infantry is 655 over there, and over here it's 556. So again, that's actually a mirror image of itself, right? And so he has prioritized his infantry charms a little bit more than his marksman charms. And then if we look at his Lancers, they're still 4s. Which is not a surprise at all, because he has not prioritized. He's not neglected his Lancers, but he's also not prioritized them. So what I would do is I would bring his marksman gear, his marksman charms up to all 6s. And then maybe one Lancer charm up to 5, so it would be 544, and then 544, on both sides. And then moving forward, I would upgrade marksman, infantry, Lancer on charms. And so for both his charms and his infantry, I'd bring both of them up. His marksman charms I'd bring higher than his infantry chief charms, and his marksman chief gear I would bring up so that it's only one level below his infantry gear. So, and by level, I'm not counting the 3 stars, right? Because we'll consider those sub-levels. So I would consider T1 a level, T2 a level, T3 a level. And then, so if he brings this up to Mythic T3, then it will be one full level below the infantry jacket. And I think that's what I would recommend he do, just so that he does have those marksmen and their, their attack and their, really able to help him on attack. And then if he is using a 48 4 48 or 49 2 49, some people use a 505, which is 50% infantry, 0 Lancers, 50% marksmen, but all of those rely heavily on marksmen. So by him not focusing on his chief charms for marksmen, or his chief gear for marksman, he's really, in essence, hurting himself with that, because in all of those examples, his marksman and his infantry are equal. You know, if it's 49-2, 49, they're both 49. If it's 505, they're both at 50%. If it's 48-4, 48, they're both at 48. So, like I said, very few people rely 100% on infantry for anything. And so you really need to think about what the ratios are you use. And that might change in a couple generations. So you just periodically have to look at what you're doing right now. Early on in the game, you're doing 50-20-30 for offense and 60-40 for defense. And so it's really important that you be really kind of in line with all three of those, slightly prioritizing infantry for chief gear and prioritizing marksmen for charms, but you want to make sure there's lancers there. Once you move into generation 5, you start shifting away from using as many lancers. We still use them on defense, but we don't use them as much on offense. So for offense, we really want to start prioritizing those marksmen and make sure that they're pulling their weight. And I think he's neglected his marksmen a little bit more than he, in my opinion, should have. So I would recommend he go and catch those up to that chief gear before the infantry gear before he upgrades his infantry gear anymore. That's my opinion for what it's worth. And as always, feel free to comment and share your ideas and your thoughts, especially if they differ from us. And if you disagree with me, then, you know, we would like to know why. And as always, if you like my content, I encourage you to repost or share, like, comment. You're welcome to share my page, either my YouTube page, it's also Joan D'Arc, or my TikTok with your fellow Whiteout Survival fans. And I have many more follower reviews to go. So I'm feeling a little bit better now. So I think I'm going to be able to do 2 a day for the next couple of days. And hopefully I'll be caught up by Monday or Tuesday. So thank you much.